Howdy, everyone. Welcome to the Uncle Jonathan podcast. You've made it. Congratulations. You are now on episode 1. So give yourself a little pat on the back for being number 1 here. So today, I guess I should tell you a little bit about myself. Well, I am going to be your internet uncle that will tell you the truth about everything. I will never lie to you unless I'm deluded myself. And even then, I'm telling the truth. So, I guess this podcast is going to be a mix of a lot of things, ramblings, but mostly answering questions from you. So if you got any questions for me, just email Uncle Jonathan Show, and that's Jonathan spelled Jonathan, just like it is in the Bible. I don't go for none of these crazy new spellings with H's and an extra O in the middle. I do it the way it was written in the Bible. Jonathan. J-O and then Nathan. So Uncle Jonathan Show at gmail.com. That's where you want to go to ask your questions. No topic is off the table. So since this is the first episode, I don't really have a lot of questions. One of my favorite things to do is to kind of thumb through the interwebs and check out some of my Reddits and even Twitter. So let's just go through, see if we can find anything juicy, and we'll respond to it right here. Whew. Ruined my dad's marriage. We'll pass on that. Well, maybe not. Hang on here. It's too long. Let's see here. All right. This might be a little shorter. This is on the legal advice subreddit. For the last 10 years, I have been the father to a boy who is now 12 years old. He has expressed wanting me to adopt him, but I'm hesitant. Not out of love, but legal liability. That's the title. So the original poster goes on to add detail. His mother and I dated/lived together for several years before splitting up. There's your first mistake. All right. She moved several states away, but we both wish I'd stay in his life as his dad. Yeah. For the last 6 or 7 years, he has flown up to spend the summer with my wife and I. We're in contact over the phone year-round. His biological father has never been a part of his life and has been open about signing parental rights away. I believe she doesn't pursue child support because he can barely provide for himself. She also did not want him to play a part. Mom can be unpredictable and chaotic. Yep. Potential drug use. Partying in the past. More recently, health issues that involve memory issues. However, my role as dad has never been questioned. A few years ago, she lost custody of him over a traffic issue that I don't know the details of and was placed in foster care for a year. And I was not allowed contact, not being a legal parent. A few years have passed. He and I would both like an adoption to happen. I always thought of adopting when he turned 18, but I believe he worries about a foster situation happening again. My wife and I have no children of our own. Whoa, there's a twist. We mostly live paycheck to paycheck after ongoing medical expenses. I pay for the flight each year and everything while he's home with us. Year round, he gets an allowance from me and onto a children's debit card. I also pay for his phone. Mom knows she can ask for me to help out with small expenses like appointments, schools, etc. If we can make it work, we do. This has been the dynamic for years. Currently, child support would be a giant hardship on us if I adopted him. I worry she could request child support or even back pay if that's a possibility. Are there any adoption avenues that would make him feel more secure but not open us up to child support? Well, the short answer to your question there at the end is no. There are no legal avenues. Either you're going to adopt this kid and you'll be responsible for him from the time that you adopt him, which looks like could be another 6 years, or you don't. You're just a nice guy and you're being there for him and you're helping him out and you're doing what you can when you can, like you already said. But there's a bigger story going on here. So Mr. Let's see his Reddit name here. Extreme Shoe 1465. I'll just call you Mr. Extreme. So, Mr. Extreme, I'm going to tell you something. You're one hell of a dude. It's extremely noble what you've done. And you know what you're dealing with here. You got a chaotic woman and man who doesn't take responsibility for his own child or his own life. And you have picked up the slack, and you're probably the only reason why this kid is not in foster care today. Now, let me tell you something else here. This, quote, traffic issue, where she lost custody of her kid for a year. Buddy, they don't take kids away from their mamas because they were speeding 10 over the posted speed limit. Most likely, if I'm going to take a guess at this, she got a DWI or was intoxicated somehow and had the kid in the car. That's usually an enhancement to a child endangerment charge beyond just the DWI or DUI or whatever they call it in your damn state. So I think what you're trying to do here is trying to be there, and you realize that the kid's mother is a piece of crap, so is his father. But you also got your own life, and it's not like you're rolling in $100 bills. So I think adopting this child should be 100% off the table. Plus, this is a burden that is going to greatly impact your wife. I'm not sure what the legality of that would be, to be married to someone who's adopted. Does that make it hurt child in a way? Or I don't know, man. But here's the thing. This kid's got a tough situation, and he's lucky to have you around. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm a little curious as to, if you're as close to this kid as you say you are, why the kid wasn't placed with you for that year. Child Protective Services or DHR or whatever they call it in your area. Foster care is almost always a last resort. They're going to look for an aunt and uncle, like a crazy uncle like me. They're going to look for somebody that they can place the kid with before going to an outside foster care. they actually have to pay those foster parents. And unfortunately, there's a lot of really good foster parents out there, but there's also a lot of them that are just out there for the money. So it's definitely increases the chances that your uh, I guess son, as we'll call him, could be put in a bad spot. But you know what, Mr. Extreme, I give you hats off. But you got to balance out your responsibilities here, because this kid is not the only responsibility that you've taken on. You've also taken on a new wife. So good luck with that. Mm-mm-mm. I tell you what, the world is complicated out there for a guy sometimes. All right, let's see. How to go from no credit to excellent credit within 2 years the right way. From Lusty Argonian 601. To preface, I'm in my early 20s and my parents never taught me anything about how to build credit. Not uncommon, Lusty. I have a decent paying job and have no bills to pay while living under my parents' house. I try to do my own research, but I'm unsure if I should trust build credit claims fast that I have seen online. If anyone has been in my shoes, is it possible to go from no credit to excellent credit within 2 years? And what are some good online resources that I can use to learn how to build my credit? Well, all right, Lusty, this is a good question, especially for you young people. Lusty Argonian. So, when people are told they have, quote, no credit, it simply means that you either have what's called a thin file, or you've just never used credit for anything. You've never had a negative charge off, a power bill, an old apartment you rented that you left owing back rent that got reported on your credit. You've never had anything like that reported. Sometimes when people come up and they say there's absolutely no file. So that's good. So first of all, hats off to you. And the old myth that bad credit is better than no credit, well, that's pretty much a lie. You heard it here. I'm having to relight this thing because I'm talking too much. Right away. Maybe you got questions about cigars. I'll be more than happy to answer. This is a Perdomo Lot 23. I buy these in a pack of Perdomo Maduros, which I absolutely enjoy, as you can tell. This light is really starting to bother me. Let's see how this works. We should stick with it. I'm just going to shield off a little bit. There we go. So, let's talk about credit. You're young, you're in your 20s, you got a good paying job, you're on good standing. So, when we talk about what you got for credit, what we're really saying is what your credit score is. Credit scoring models are just a predictor of what you are going to be like as a future customer. So let's take, for example, that, let's just say we decided that we took a sample of people that like vanilla ice cream, and we found that there's a majority of people born in the month of January that like vanilla ice cream. Well, if you're making vanilla ice cream, then you'd want to try to find out where all the people born in January are. It's that simple. So credit model is just kind of an algorithm of sorts And it has several factors, and you can find a lot of this information online. And each of these factors make up part of your score, a certain percentage. Now, the largest factors are going to be late payments. That includes current accounts or charge offs, time that your account's been open, uh, how much of your revolving credit lines you're using as a percentage. Are you paying off your balances every month, or do you got a $5,000 card and you got it maxed out and you're barely making a minimum payment? So those are all the major factors that are going to affect your credit score. So the short answer is no. You're not going to have what we call excellent credit in 2 years, but you can have very good credit that is working on becoming excellent. And to be honest, at your age, in your situation, unless you're trying to buy finance a house or large real estate deal, you don't need excellent credit. What you need is to maintain no bad credit while improving in making some good credit. So when you want to go buy a new car or when you want to go buy a house in a few years, then you have that good credit. You have excellent credit and you'll get the best interest rates. So, how do you do that? Well, the easiest thing to do would be go to your bank and see if you can apply for a card. Tell them you got no credit and you want to open up your first card. Now, they may say yes, they may say no if they don't have a file. If that doesn't work, you could go on the creditkarma.com. You can find numerous offers. I'm surprised you hadn't gotten any in the mail yet. But usually, if you want to apply for a card, even if you're denied, they're going to sell that information. You're going to start getting other card offers. Now, they might initially be low limit cards, around $200, $300 to start off with, maybe $500. But go ahead and open one or two. Now, don't go crazy. Just open a couple. It's all you need to get that history established. And then when you do, don't close the account. Even if you don't use the card, just pay it off, keep a zero balance. There may be an annual fee, but you really want to look for cards with no annual fee because they're usually about $100 a year, and they'll put the balance on the card and you got to pay it. Don't miss a payment and don't carry balances. You know what? It's not going to really change anything if you use the card. So most people are going to use those type of cards for emergencies, like if you break down, you need a set of tires or something like that. Keep that card, leave it at home. Don't put it in your pocket. Don't use it for, stupid stuff like eating out and all that stuff. Trust me, you'll max that card out quick and then you'll be taking forever to pay it off because the interest rates are very, very high, probably around 25-30%. You're going to be making that $25-$30 minimum payment every month, and you're going to realize real quick about $15-$17 of that is going to interest. So, but you can, if you start off, got no bad credit, go ahead, start building that good credit, and you'll be in good shape. Okay, let's see here. Ooh. Ask old people. I don't know that one. Let me see. Mildly infuriating. All right, I'm going to segue here. We're going to talk about the friend zone. So, I was thinking about this the other day, and one of my Twitter follows here. He's a pretty popular guy. I've seen him before. He did something kind of controversial about a last Memorial Day. But anyways, Dylan Allman at Dylan with a Y, M Allman on Twitter. So, Dylan's got some hot opinions sometimes, and I've kind of just glossed over him. Honestly, his profile pic looks a little scary. Maybe that's it. But he's definitely got his own opinions. But Let's see. I think I even got a friend that knows him, maybe personally. I don't know. But we got some mutual followers. But Dylan kind of usually posts his, how do I say it? He definitely believes in keeping the government in check. And a lot of his posts are about that. Maybe anti-authoritarian might be a good way to describe him. We might even have him on here about this post. But let me see here. Good grief, Dylan. Well, where's that post at? So this is on the friend zone. And, oh, here we go. All right. This Dylan says, men, I'm no expert, but here's my advice on how to get a girlfriend, in parentheses, now wife. Number 1, be nice. The misnomer that women don't like nice guys, in my experience, seems to be false. You probably just aren't actually nice. Second point, be authentic. Don't listen to grifters who tell you to act a certain way. If you do this, you won't end up with someone who is actually compatible with you. Next point, don't try to force the relationship to fit in a category. You may not end up in the roles that are suited for your individual personalities. Next point, engage in her interest. It's easier for someone to find a place for you in their life if you engage with the things they love. Last point, understand that women are not a monolith. She should be treated as an individual and respected as one. Good luck, boys. So, and then he posts, 3 pictures with his lovely bride. I have to say, I have not always agreed with this advice. But I think this is one of the best things Mr. Dillon has ever posted. And we need to talk about it. We need to talk about the friend zone here. Because there is an industry, I will say, largely of grifters that are making a living on trying to tell men how to stay out of the friend zone. Now, let me tell you something. That's right where you want to be. Do you remember old Mr. Extreme and that post about his ex-girlfriend? Well, let me tell you something about Mr. Extreme. It's quite possible that had he spent a little time in the friend zone, he may have avoided a lot of heartache and pain. Women are different. I recently took up deer hunting in the last couple years. And if there's anything that will make you understand how different men are from women, it's being out in nature. Now, let me tell you, so does and bucks, does being female deers, for those of you that don't know that, and bucks, the male deers, are almost like 2 different species. I killed my first doe last year. I'm still waiting on that opportunity to get my first buck. Why are they different, you ask? Everything's different. Their motives, their behavior, their schedules, everything about bucks and does are different. And the more I spend time out in the woods studying and watching and learning how to hunt these wonderful, beautiful creatures who provide some delicious meat, by the way, the more I understand that they're not that different than us. Let me explain. So, does travel and they stay in groups of females. Uh, Usually about, they might have a group of three or four, or even five, six, seven, eight females. And they move together, they travel together, they eat together. They'll have their young and nurse their young and wean them. And at some point, what usually happens is a male child deer, becomes a buck, and then he'll be ran out and he'll go out on his own. The females will usually stay with their mother, and then they'll be a part of that female group. And the doe, it's all about the connection that they have, right? That's their group they were born into. That's their mom. That's their aunt. That's their sister. And then one day, right, that'll be their child. And they're going to travel in this group. And mainly it's for protection, right? It's also for instruction. Of course, when they're small, that knowledge is passed down from the older female deers to the younger of what to eat, where the food is, but also danger. A white-tailed deer, the first thing they do is they have amazing hearing and smell. And as soon as they smell or hear anything that sounds like a predator to them, they immediately stop. All the other deer stop. And the reason they're called the whitetail is once they confirm that there might be danger nearby, that whitetail goes up, they turn, they run back to safety, and all the other deer. So imagine, like, you know, a group of women, right, walking into down a street or going into a club or a nightclub or something like that, and then they're talking and they're giggling and they're having fun and they're dancing and maybe they're having a drink or two, and then one of them sees a creepy guy right down at the end of the bar, and he puts something in a girl's drink, right? And so, right, what's going to happen? Do you think that girl just stays silent? Oh, I'm going to mind my own business. It's not my business. No, 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 no. That girl is going to immediately alert her friends. And, right, they're going to take action. They're going to do something, right? Because they immediately sense the danger of this bad guy who might do something bad to them or just another woman, or he's just looking for somebody to hurt, right? So that in a way probably is like how, I think women and female deer are probably very, very alike in that one example. I can give more. Now, the male deer, the bucks, they will, especially when they're young, they'll travel in bachelor herds sometimes. But mostly what bucks are doing is, especially as they age, is they're branching off. They're looking for way they protect themselves is by seclusion, is by finding places where they can hide, gaining their knowledge, right? They're looking to get bigger, get stronger, right? They got these big old antlers they can kind of use defensively if they need to. But for the most part, male deer, their whole strategy is by improving themselves and gaining more knowledge, and they don't rely on a herd or a pack, right? They might when they're kind of young, but that's going to end as soon as what they call the rut begins. Now the rut is when, unlike, this is where we are kind of different. So humans can, pretty much are down to have sex anytime, right? A lot of animals, like dogs, cats, deer, right? They only go into heat once a year. That means the female can only reproduce once a year, and the reason for that is because for the survival, right, of the children. So instead of having a situation where you might have animals that pair up or humans that pair up, the rut is going to begin, and these males are only thinking about one thing. They can smell that the female has gone into a place where she's fertile and she's open to reproduce. So that's when you'll see the males will usually start encountering each other. They'll usually start following the females around. And if there's another male that's kind of coming in too close, they'll try to run them off. And you've probably seen videos and pictures of deer, locking antlers, going at it, right? Where the hell am I going with this damn story? Oh, how women and men are different. So, I guess, fellas, what you got to realize is there's all this red pill shit out there, and oh my God, the rational male. Holy crap. I remember looking in and listening to some of those podcasts, and I ain't going to say there's not some truth into it, but this whole philosophy of hypergamy is getting a little out of hand. Yes, there are women that are simply looking to trade up or get the most, the guy with the access to the most resources. That is true. But that's not the majority. And that's not even the one you should be looking for if you are looking for a long-term relationship. Most women thinking about what I'm saying here. Most women are just confused right now. Now, as they get older, they sort things out. But there was a time and a place where the family of a woman would do everything they could to ensure that she got settled down and married and had kids and got a good husband and started working on that aspect of her life as soon as possible. Now, I can hear the ladies screaming right now that was the patriarchy oppressing them and this, that, and the other, and maybe some of that is true. But the basis for that was because mothers and fathers know that just about all women at some point are going to want a family. And unfortunately, a woman's time to do that is kind of limited. Now, I don't think that, obviously there is cultural considerations, and I don't think like, we should be marrying off 14-year-olds or anything like that. But our culture now does a very, very poor job of preparing women for that reality. I think there is nothing wrong with a woman pursuing her own interests, her own career, whatever she wants. But I think we do a disservice when we don't tell women the truth that you may want more someday. And maybe you should consider in you're making your plans about what you're going to do if you do want that someday. There's just so much endless. And going back to the deer, because women are more social, they're more influence. And that's what's really devious about a lot of this stuff. Women from the time they're girls. So I'm a, Gen Xer type. And, the women were being told when I was young that you can have it all, girl. You can have that corner office and your master's of business administration. You can have the man of your dreams, and you can have 3 lovely kids and a nice house in the suburbs and a new car. And the fact of the matter is, while some people can pull that off, not everyone wants to pull that off. I mean, shoot. I could spend 8 hours a day in the gym and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I don't want to pull that off. Now, I have been spending more time in the gym. I want to get in better shape, but I'm not entering any bodybuilding contest anytime soon because I don't want to. If you've been programmed your whole life being told not only this is what you can do, but this is what you should do, it's led to a lot of sense of entitlement. It's led to a lot of sense of anger and anguish. And there's a lot of women out there that don't know what to do with that. And at the same time, they haven't invested in thinking about what kind of a man would want them or they want. All right, so that's the landscape, fellas. That's where we're at. Okay? It's not like these women are like they were maybe 100 years ago, looking at their watch, thinking they're about to turn 21 and I got to find me a man and get married and have a family. That's why I go in all this, not to disparage anyone or their life choices. I think people should be able to do whatever they want to do. I don't give a shit. So recognizing the landscape is your first goal, young men. So guys like I can't even Rollo Tomasi and these other guys, man. So they reduce it down to, well, we now live in a state of hypergamy because there's no social control on women, and so they're basically just these money grubbing whores that are just gonna trade sex for resources, and so the only way you can win is to what is it, Grat? You got to find a woman of lower status and of lower means than yourself. You got to be one or two rungs up on the ladder from her, and then she's just going to use you until she can find somebody better. If you're lucky, you can stay at the top of that rung. And that's all a bunch of bullshit for the most part. I mean, there is a little bit of truth in the fact that when you get into a serious relationship with a woman, she is going to look to you to provide. And that's a whole nother story. But let's stick with this post about not falling for all the red pill stuff. So Dylan is 100% right, especially in this modern landscape where a lot of women have put more thought into what they want to do with their careers and this, that, and the other than where they want to end up as far as what type of guy they're looking for. There's also a lot of messages from society. They're getting bombarded with messages and messaging. That this kind of guy is the guy you want, or this kind of guy. But at the end of the day, you got to help them figure out what they want. And the way you do that is, like Dylan says, by being yourself, fellas. Stay in that friend zone. I hate to say this, but like we did with Mr. Extreme, there's a lot of women out there that just aren't stable. And I don't care how much you think you can help her. I don't care how strong your feelings are for her. You are going down a path of misery. And by all means, if you don't believe me, go down it, because your Uncle Jonathan has been down that road many times. It's like, dealing with an alcoholic. What are you going to do? You could, if your job was to help alcoholics, you could go into any bar any night of the week and you could find plenty. But that's not where all the counselors go, right? Where do they go? They wait till they hit rock bottom and the courts appointed them to go to counseling, or they pick up the phone and call you. Or sometimes it's prison. These people have to go to prison for their drinking, literally, before they're open to getting any kind of help. So you're better off waiting on that one guy that's going to come in at the end of the week because he's gotten a third DWI, or he's been ordered as part of his probation to go get alcohol counseling. You're better off keeping your powder dry for that one girl that's figured out that you're a decent fella and that you're what she wants, than going around and worrying about what the hell all these other women are doing. I'm just being honest with you. So friend zone is a good place to be. It's a real good place to be, because what you're going to do is, I get infatuated as well, but because I've been around the block a few times, I kind of know what kind of woman works well with me. I also know what I'm looking for, and it takes time. Let me tell you, man, you're going out here on these dates with these girls off of Bumble and Hinge and Tinder and all this stuff, and let me tell you, that ain't the real her, buddy. That is the girl. That is the girl she is pretending to be for the guy that she thinks she needs. Bad, bad, bad place. Bad place. I know some of y'all have worked out, and look, that's awesome. If you met your wife on Bumble or any of these apps, more power to you. You got lucky. You had two people being themselves, and apps can be great for meeting people, right? They can also be good practice for dating. But for the most part, dating is dead. Dating is a ritual that goes back to courting, to when you actually, were expected to marry somebody after you got to know them and decide that you wanted to, have a family or, be intimate with this person. Nowadays, people shack up, they'll live together their whole lives. So, the purpose of dating is completely antiquated. Now, I'm not knocking traditional values. I personally, I think we've gone a little too far that way. We are a little too open-minded and about these relationships and just never progressing to marriage. I personally, and I wasn't always this way, but I have no interest in living with a woman that I'm not married to. I don't want to go through that. If I'm going to live with you, then let's be married, or let's at least be engaged and have a date. But these open-ended, let's just shack up and live together, well, people think it's a trial run, it's a test run, and it really works out. It'd be like saying to somebody, I want you to give me a job. I'm going to hang out. You're going to pay me, but I'm not going to work like I'm really an employee. I'm just going to kind of, do this like a test run. Well, let me tell you, nobody's going to hire you. They only want to hire you if you're dedicated to the job. You're also going to find you're going to work harder if you've dedicated yourself to the job. You're going to have more success, but you go in there half-assing it. So that's what I think a lot of, and I've done it myself, so I'm not judging here. But I think that was part of the reason why families, would frown upon, because when you're young and you don't know any better, it sounds like a lot of fun. Well, let me tell you what happens when you get a little older. I could not imagine anything worse than having to share my home with a woman that I'm not married to, or getting married to in the extremely near future. And when I say near future, I mean there's a ring and there's a date and we've already called the caterer and booked the band. I don't mean this someday when The stars line up and the rainbow is going over and the unicorn's flying over the rainbow. We're going to get married. Nah, I ain't playing that shit. How long should we go till this dang cigar ends? All right, so back to fellas. Look, you got to stop listening to this red pill shit. I know you got emotions. I know you want to screw. We're all dealing with the same thing here. And I know you start thinking to yourself, we get fixated. We're so objective oriented that going back to the deer for you, we don't pick up on the social aspects. Social aspects don't become important to us anymore, right? We're women, how you fit in and the social aspects are a huge part, right? We get focused on something. If there was like I don't know what something's real about. If there was a gold mine we knew on the other side of town, we wouldn't care. We would just, hey, if we piss somebody off, if we, canceled a guy's night out or whatever, we won't give a shit. Hey, man, I found a gold mine. I'm going to go in there and get my gold. Right? We get focused like that with women and we forget that they think differently. And we start getting hurt when we feel rejected. I know the friend zone feels like rejection. And sometimes it is. That's just part of it. But here's the thing. Guys, you don't want a woman that doesn't look at you and say, that's the guy I want. Romantically, you don't want that. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s with all these cheesy movies where, the guy meets girl's not that interested in guy, or maybe that's kind of cool, and then something goes wrong, and the guy spends the rest of the movie trying to prove how much he loves this woman, how pure his intentions are in order to win her love. And at the end, he does some grand gesture, and she realizes she was wrong about him, and they live happily ever after. Let me tell you, that is some bullshit. Bullshit. I'll tell you why. Women ain't looking for a grand gesture. They don't give a shit. If they do, they're batshit crazy. And you should be running in the first place. What they're looking for is how you fit in to the big picture of their life. Right? They already got their little group. They got their life. How does this guy fit in? They'll put up with a lot of shit. This is why you see a lot of women, good women, put up with a lot of bad dudes, is because the guy can fit into their life. How many times have you heard, have I read in these Reddit subreddits like, my husband is a narcissist, he's an evil, blah, 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 blah. He might be. Let's say he's an asshole, okay? But my parents don't believe me. My friends don't believe me. Right? You don't ever hear guys saying that. My wife is... we just leave. We don't give a shit. We just say, all right, bye. We're broken up. We're done. See ya. I mean, hell, last time I broke up with a woman, I didn't call my mama first and ask her for permission. I didn't need my dad to validate my decision. Right? They just asked me like a month later, hey, we hadn't heard you mention so-and-so. Yeah, well, she's gone. I kicked her to the curb. We're different, fellas. We're different. And, this is probably the most important thing. and going back to all this progress and all these lies we tell ourselves as a society that men and women aren't different. I'm so sorry to tell you, women pay the price. They have the highest price to pay if they make a mistake. And that's probably the root of all of this. If I make a mistake, and I was just thinking about a crazy gal I met off of Bumble, very, very short-lived. And I say short-lived, I mean this thing lasted mainly a month, but she was wild. And she was trying to convince me that I was everything she had been looking for. And I was going, yeah. But, what did I have to pay? When I made a mistake, obviously letting this person in my life, and there's others I can mention. What's the biggest price I've had to pay? I mean, besides my emotions, which that is a price. Let's not discount that. I think the worst thing that probably ever happened to me was I had to move. I had to go find an apartment, right? Because I was living with a girl. Listen, Uncle Jonathan here. But if you look at it from a woman's point of view, what happens if she makes a mistake? What happens if she gets with a really bad dude? Well, you're like this woman that Mr. Extreme was talking about here. You got a 12-year-old child that you're going to have forever that has no fatherly influence. You got to rely on your ex-boyfriend. Probably this guy's probably like 5 ex-boyfriends ago to even give him anything resembling a father. Right? You got to pay, raise, you got to support him. You got to, try to educate this child. And it sounds like this woman is struggling because she's got her own problems. Hell, you could get beat. You could get killed. Let's be honest. Right? Jealous husbands, boyfriends, ex-husbands, ex-boyfriends, they do a lot more physical damage than the other way around. So if you look at it from a woman's point of view, and we're in a point in society and culture where that woman doesn't have a mother or a father or a brother in most cases that's helping her screen these guys out. She's on her own. She's that doe out in the woods, but there's no community around her. She's all alone. And if she doesn't hear that mountain lion or that coyote or smell it approaching, she doesn't have 2 or 3 other of her other does in her group to smell it, to give her a chance to alert her. Right? That's the power in numbers when it comes to being a woman. Just like I started, right? You go out with 3 or 4 of your girlfriends if you're a woman, because you're more likely one of y'all will spot the danger and alert the other first. You'll be safer. Guys, we don't have that consideration. Hell, I'll probably end up at the bar all by myself tonight. I don't care. Who's going to, rape me? Who's going to try to shove me in the trunk of their car? Right? But women, these are things that we have to be real about. And it's not just, something that overt like an assault. We could be talking about just her getting involved with an abusive or highly narcissistic man that's going to ruin her life. If you get with a narcissist, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, and you don't understand what is going on there with the love bombing and all the manipulation, we'll talk about that in another podcast. You don't stand a chance. Especially if you come from a background where you never really felt loved. You're like putty in that person's hands. And the worst part is once the narcissist gets what they need from you or can't get it anymore, It's like you never existed to them, male or female. That's what Mr. Extreme's ex-girlfriend's dealing with. It's what she has been dealing with. Once that relationship with her child's father ended, he couldn't care less about either one of them. Sad, ain't it? So if you think about guys like Rollo Tomasi and all these red pill guys that are saying, well, these are the women, these are the men women are picking, and this is why. And they're trying to find reasons for all this. Because, hey, look, a lot of women, especially the attractive ones, make a lot of bad decisions in men. But could it be because they don't have that support from their friends and family helping them understand? Maybe they don't have the humility, right? That could be a thing too. But there's a lot of women that are out there that are single that are absolutely beautiful, or good, even good-hearted women, and they've just made a lot of bad choices because they don't know how to spot the danger. No, I've made mistakes. Hell, I got hosed really hard a few years ago. I got blindsided like I've never been blindsided. It's not just the women that need help. Everybody needs. So, Dylan's right. You got to be authentic. You got to be a nice guy. He might not just be actually nice. I would change that word. I don't like nice that much. It's rooted in the word naive, but maybe there's some truth in that. Maybe you got to be a little naive, you got to show her you're going to give her the benefit of a doubt. Right? You look at these other countries, right, where a man thinks, where it's very common for honor killings, like India and Pakistan, stuff like that. So if you're a woman, put yourself in her, and this is how things were, right? Used to be, adultery, could very well end up very badly for a woman up until, the last 100 or couple 100 years of modern history. For a woman to even be suspected of adultery could end up with her dying. So there could be some genetic traits going on there, right? The women that picked mean men didn't make it long, didn't pass on their genes. I don't know. Maybe there is some evolution happening there, or natural selection. But either way, any woman, whether they know it or not, they're going to need to know that you're a trustworthy, you're an honorable person. Not perfect, but that you're reliable and you're honorable. All right, so let's move on to the next points he makes. Not trying to force a relationship into a certain category. I agree on this. Not always. But again, I've given you my ideas on dating and courtship. So I get it. You're sitting here going, well, so I can't do these big romantic gestures. I can't go full red pill or rational male on her, right? And just screen out the ones that aren't serious and that aren't, bending to my will. Then what can I do? Well, Dylan again says it, engage her interest. People's favorite subject is always themselves. I don't care what you say. And it doesn't mean you're self-absorbed or narcissistic. What it means is somebody else cares enough to actually want to know what you think or how you feel. And that includes what makes you happy. What do you like to do? You like to go to the gym and lift weights? You like to go on a hike? You like to go out and try new restaurants? You see, when somebody asks you that, it's not about the activity. It's about you give a shit enough to ask me what makes me happy, what I like to do. It's endearing. And it might get a little awkward, and you got to play it cool sometimes, and sometimes you got to push it. But it takes time, man. There's no shortcuts. My own daddy told me that. I didn't believe him at the time, but now I do. So, guys, I know this sounds like lame advice from your uncle. But while you're doing all this and being authentic and hanging out in the friend zone and being cool, there is one thing you can do that will impress the hell out of them. And you'll be picking them and telling them yes or no, not the other way around. And that's working on yourself. Nobody wants to hear it, especially in this world where people seem to get more and more entitled, younger and younger, but it's true. Let me tell you, especially if you're a younger guy in your 20s or 30s, if you think there's anything special about a pudgy, entitled guy that sits around playing video games and complaining on the internet about, this, that, and the other, then you're crazy. Those guys are a dime a dozen. Hit the gym. Lift weights. Learn a trade. Think about where you're making your money. Think about learning something that you can get paid for. Develop your male relationships. I can't tell you how important that is. I'm sure I'll go into it, but you gotta have your group. You gotta have your boys, and they gotta be good guys. You don't want idiots like yourself. That's just going to be, bring you down. I mean, you got to find guys that are heading in the right direction, the direction you want to go. And that will really help. Remember how I said how women are kind of observing how you fit in socially? They want a complete guy. They don't want to be, the only thing in your life that has the potential to make you happy. It's not going to work. It won't work if they're that way with you and you're that way with them. And they'll sniff you out real quick. If you're a miserable guy and you're just pursuing them and you got it in your head that if I can just get this one girl to be my girlfriend, that all my problems will be solved and I'll be happy. Boy, if that's the way you're feeling, the way you're thinking, which I understand. Look, your uncle's been there many times. I can't tell you how many times I've been in love. But it ain't true. Sometimes you catch that rabbit, son. And you go, what am I going to do next? Sometimes you realize the problems just began. So anyways, work on yourself, improve yourself, put all that energy that you would put in to trying to convince this woman that she should be your girlfriend. Put all that energy in improving yourself, learning things. I mean, find your interests, man. Find what you like. You know what? When I was young, you know what we did to meet women? We learned to play guitar. You know why? Because there was nothing more attractive than a woman looking at a guy and going, oh man, he learned how to play that guitar really well. He learned how to sing. That's why women like that stuff, is because they're looking at you and they're going, well, if that guy can put that type of energy into that, right? They don't even know it, but subconsciously on some level, they're thinking, what could he put into our marriage and to providing for our family? It's not that different from animals, right? Them does, when they're, they got all these young bucks out here. You'll see them out here starting about November. These young bucks will start chasing these does, and they're trying to do everything they can. These does are going, and here comes the big daddy buck. He's going to run them bucks off, right? Your young buck might get lucky every once in a while, especially with another young doe. They know what they're looking for. They know what it means when they see that big old 10-point rack coming through the woods. And they see that muscles. And they see that big, mature, 5-6-year-old buck snorting, stomping his feet. They're like, that's my baby daddy. Little spikes. Little young bucks running around there, dime a dozen. So, I see these guys in their early 30s and in their 20s that are, man, when's the last time you called a guy out to fix your air conditioner? Man, let me tell you, man, these guys, they got the world by the tail. Call up your local HVAC guy. Find a guy that fixes plumbing, electrical. You don't see many of these guys single, and there's a good reason. Look, if we were really living in hypergamy, as Rollo Tomasi and all these other guys would have you believe, then these guys wouldn't have wives, right? They'd be standing outside of Wall Street every day, throwing themselves at men, or downtown outside the bank, waiting on the bank president to come down, or some other horse shit like that, right? But no, there's average guys that have women that love them, beautiful, nice, sweet women that love them, and they have a wonderful home. But that's just what men used to do. And look, I'm guilty of it. I spent my 20s like a summer day that would never end. And I had to play a lot of catch up. I still am playing a little catch up, if I'm being honest with you. But I learned from it. And that's what I'm here to do, help you learn a little bit. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm almost done with this cigar. And I appreciate the hell out of you spending time with your Uncle Jonathan today. It has been my pleasure. And I enjoy these long podcasts with good audio that I can just put on while I lift some weights or take a walk, or sometimes I'm just trying to fall asleep. So please subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel. Email me a question at unclejonathanshow@gmail.com. I might even have you on as a guest. So it's the power of technology these days. God bless. Take care. And be nice to everyone, especially yourself. I'll see you next time.